Joining us now in Studio B, our good friend Roxy Bernstein, ESPN play-by-play specialist. He'll call the game tonight on ESPN, 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain Time. And he even got a shout-out from Creighton coach Greg McDermott on the show yesterday. Listen to this.
I'm hoping BYU fans will just stay home and watch it on ESPN. Brand facility game and Roxy Bernstein, so I think it'll be a great broadcast, so I don't think there's any need to show up. I just watch it at home.
Roxy, how many BYU fans do you think will take Coach McDermott's advice?
I think my bosses would approve of the endorsement from Coach McDermott, but I don't think many people around Provo are going to adhere to his viewing habits for this evening. I think that it's going to be rocking. It's going to be awesome. Somebody's going to the NIT Final Four tonight and a trip to Madison Square Garden in New York, and I think the fans they're going to show up. They're loyal, they're passionate. They've had two really good crowds for the first couple of games here, and I think it's going to be just absolutely off the hook tonight.
Yeah, it's weird because you have senior night, 2.5 weeks ago or whatever, and then you kind of have this senior night again, and now it's official. Kyle Collinsworth,
he's playing. Come on.
Yeah, of course he
is. He's going to go for a quadruple double if he's sick, okay? He's going to add block shots or steals to it tonight.
Yeah, why wouldn't he play? You know what I mean? Like, he sat out practice so he could play today.
Well, okay, if he's sick, okay, does he really need to practice that much this time of the year? Let's be honest, they're not spending that much time on the floor as it is. Most of the practice time now is devoted to film study, game preparation, learning your opponent, and a team that BYU's not familiar with in Creighton. The same thing for Creighton. They're not familiar with the Cougars. And that's what they're doing more than anything right now. Okay, getting some shots up and just getting loose and getting around the court.
Some crisp bounce passes.
I mean, honestly, are they on the floor more than 45 minutes or an hour this time of the year?
I doubt it.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Okay, and even if he doesn't go through shoot-around today, we'll see in a little bit. Big deal.
Okay, so Kyle's less than 100%. You're calling for a quadruple double.
I'm really putting the pressure on myself.
But in a funny way, Roxy, BYU fans should be very excited about you calling a BYU game featuring Kyle Collinsworth, and that brings us to our stat of the day.
It's the BYU Sports Nation stat of the day.
Roxy Bernstein has called 5 of Kyle Collinsworth's 12 triple doubles. What? That's crazy.
Yes.
You've called more than anybody else.
No, Greg Wrubell's called more than anybody else.
Oh, okay.
On television.
On television,
yeah.
okay.
On television.
Yeah. It is assumed that Greg is at every game.
I think, Corey Williams also has had 5 with me, although he had one last week in the NIT. He was he was here for one of the first 2 games. Both the first 2 games.
Passed you.
No, because I think I had one when I worked with somebody else on a game. So therefore, we're tied. I'm sticking to my story. How's that? I haven't gone through the notes.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to include Kyle Chilton on this conversation.
Yes.
Okay.
But I believe we are tied for the most television triple-doubles.
That's bonkers.
That should be in the game notes if BYU makes the NIT.
Well,
the Final Four.
You think Dave Rose will try to squeeze me on the plane somehow and bring me to New York and get me to call one of those
I wouldn't
games?
put it past
I
them.
don't
There are
doubt
some
it.
superstitions involved on that team.
Coaches are very superstitious.
I wouldn't put it past them. Roxy Bernstein, ESPN play-by-play man with us in Studio B on BYU Sports Nation. I want to get your opinion on the Twitter question. With Kyle less than 100%, Collinsworth that is there one specific individual you think needs to step up for BYU? Or because for me, it's just like I don't care who it is. I just think BYU needs to make 3-point shots to take some pressure off of Kyle.
That's a fair assessment. I mean, okay, the logical answer could be Chase Fisher, could be Emery. I don't think it's really going to fall on anybody, to be honest with you. I think I'm with you. It's a team effort. And it's going to be a fun game tonight because both teams like to fill it up. They like to get up and down the court. We're going to see a lot of points. And this is going to be a great, I think, game to be at from a fan standpoint, from a viewer standpoint to watch it because of the tempo this game is going to be played at. And so with that said, in terms of does anybody need to step up, honestly, it depends on how he's feeling. If he's feeling, nah, I'm okay, nobody else has to really do more than they're capable of. But if he is really struggling out there and you can see it, maybe it falls on a Jordan Chapman to step up tonight, who's going to gobble up those minutes if he can't play the 35-plus minutes we're accustomed to seeing him. Zach Celius, those are 2 guys that could have to step up if he really is severely under the weather tonight.
Yeah, the concern for me is if he's under the weather and his ability to penetrate is kind of gone. Now there's a concern because how are you going to get those 3-point looks as easy? That kind of thing to me. So I said, kind of off the radar, Kyle Davis, who hasn't had as big a role for BYU, but could provide some scoring on the inside that hasn't really been there recently.
It's true, and I don't necessarily think that he's been playing poorly. It's just the way the offense has developed for BYU and this team has evolved and being a perimeter-oriented team. Yeah, Kyle's there when you need him. Kafusi's come up with some big plays from time to time on the inside. But for the most part, this is a dominant wing shooting team. And the big guys, okay, they get the occasional post touch and they kick it out. And Kyle's terrific at his role, but when they needed him to go inside and get a bucket, he's as skilled a low post player, I think, as there is on the West Coast. When you look at the guy up the road at Utah's not bad. You look up and down the West Coast, all the great post players. Okay, Domantas Sabonis and Pirtle are probably the two names that come to mind of the best. But Kyle's really good in the low block, and he is, unfortunately, I think, taking a back seat. And he hasn't complained about it. He's done his role, but he's been there when they've needed him.
You phrased that perfectly, by the way, in reference to that school up north. You didn't even say the name. You didn't even reference the school.
Well,
That's
again,
perfect for our show.
Know your audience. All right?
Well played.
And
Well
he wore blue-
played.
And he wore blue, although that applies for Creighton.
That's why
as
I can
well.
get away with it today.
Yeah.
Because both teams are blue.
Yeah.
So
One is a little more of that
I
shade,
think
though.
about those things.
You should, yeah,
We
absolutely.
have to. Oh, we did a game at Oregon a few weeks ago, Washington and Oregon. And my partner, I'm throwing Corey, the bow-tied friend, under the bus here. He showed up at the Oregon shoot-around and Washington shoot-around that morning wearing this huge purple sweatshirt.
Corey!
And Dana Altman's like, what are you doing? What are you wearing? And giving him all types of grief. And it was well-deserved. You got to know your audience. And also, that's why I tend not to wear red for a game here.
Yes.
If you've ever noticed
that's
that.
a wise decision.
I think about not only the colors of the teams that are playing, but also the rivals.
Yes.
So
Yes.
That's a real thing.
it is. And I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want anybody upset at my color coordination on television. You've got to keep it
It's a
as
real issue.
fan-friendly as possible.
Yes.
It is an issue.
Yes.
Okay, when Kyle Collinsworth was in high school, across the street at Provo,
Okay.
Green, their rival is Timpview, where Bronson Kafusi, Corbin Kafusi
Right.
ran as well, right?
Okay.
So I was given a green Provo Bulldog tie because we used to work before we did this. We did kind of high school games, whatever. So I wore an orange shirt with a green tie to Timpview and Provo.
Okay.
Both sides hated me. I thought that I would somehow neutralize
Darren,
it.
we're blue, man.
Both were like, hey!
We're blue.
Yeah.
Oh, Twitter can be cruel if you're wearing something that remotely offends somebody. And, for example, my good friend Dave Fleming, who works at ESPN, Dave was doing a Cal game on TV. He wore a red tie. Well, Cal's
Cardinal.
bitter rival is Stanford. Dave didn't do it with intent and malice to rile up the Cal fans and upset them. He just wore a red tie because it was the neutral. Cal was playing, I think they were playing Nevada. And both teams are blue, but he wore red, and then it drew the ire in Cal people to the point where people were writing him complaint letters from the administration
What's
at
a
Cal.
letter?
Well, I'll take you outside and explain to you after.
We get a letter occasionally. It's fun.
Okay, now that we've got the wardrobe situation out of the way and cleared up, and everybody's on
Yeah.
the same page,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
It's not just about the teams playing, it's about rivals as well. BYU and Creighton both wear blue tonight, and they both, as you referenced, Roxy, like to get up and down the floor. Who does that favor more tonight?
Well, I think it favors BYU in terms of they're at home, they're in their familiar territory, they know the gym, the fans are going to be behind BYU, and Creighton's got to deal with the altitude. And I don't think that they're used to playing a game at this elevation. So we'll see how they deal with it early because it usually hits teams early and they power through it. And the lungs start burning and everything starts going. You get a little short of breath. It happens up here, and you have to deal with it. And they're banged up a little bit, and we'll see how physically they respond tonight. But I think of the pace of the game, and it's up and down. It's going to favor BYU when you talk about one of the top 10 scoring teams in college basketball.
The West Coast Conference is 6-0 in the tourney and the NIT. How much stock do you put into
So you're just
that?
throwing out the CBI, like Pepperdine doesn't matter anymore.
No.
Okay.
Just the
Was that the tournament they were in? I can't remember. CIT?
Roxy, who cares?
The Vegas, I don't know.
The Vegas
Somewhere.
16?
That turned into 8?
Did it?
Yeah, because they couldn't find 16.
Oh, I didn't even know
Yeah,
that. Well,
yeah.
Okay, so how much stock do you put into the big three in the WCC going 6-0 in the postseason?
You know, I'm not a big believer in the postseason record justifies selections or misses, to be honest with you.
Amen.
I felt St. Mary's deserved to be in on Selection Sunday.
100%.
But they didn't get in, and now they're one step away from going to New York like BYU. They're playing Valpo right before the Cougars tonight. And then with the Pac-12 struggles, for example, in the NCAA tournament, I don't put it on the committee, oh, they got it wrong because 7 Pac-12 teams were in and only Oregon still left surviving the first weekend. I don't buy that. It's matchups this time of the year. You are what your record and your resume says you are, who you've played, who you've beaten. And unfortunately for BYU, and we talked about this in Vegas, the eye test told you that BYU was an NCAA tournament team. St. Mary's was an NCAA tournament team. The committee didn't agree. I'm sure there's a few people on the committee that did agree with that assessment, including one of them who happens to be athletic director at BYU. But unfortunately, there's more than one person on the committee.
10.
So it's difficult to get that denial on Selection Sunday and deal with the disappointment. Then you have to turn the page and move forward, which St. Mary's has done, which San Diego State has done, which BYU has done. But I don't think BYU expected to get in on Selection Sunday. Once they lost to the Zags in the semis, they figured we're in the NIT. But it's all about the NIT is who wants to play, who doesn't want their season to end. And these are two teams that clearly don't want their season to end. And that's another reason why I think we're going to get a great game tonight.
In the moment, it's really fun. And I couldn't help thinking last night, what if BYU, San Diego State, and St. Mary's were all in the NIT Final Four? Would that not be just, straight up fun, good basketball
And then
to
stick
watch?
their tongues out at the committee? Yeah. Na. We told you we deserve to be in. That would be great. West Coast domination, West Coast bias, right? And you were talking about the crowds a little while ago at the NIT. How about the show last night at San Diego State?
Oh, it was fantastic.
It was awesome. And it was full. It was rocking. And it's going to be that way again for their quarterfinal game. And it's great to see the fans respond and show up and support these teams that have earned it because of how well they've played, how entertaining their styles are. And it can't be said that every place embraces the NIT like it's been embraced here, like it's been embraced in San Diego. St. Mary's, for example, although it was a really good crowd when they beat Georgia on Sunday, but the first round was like 1,100 people.
Oh, man.
Now, in that gym, it doesn't seem like it's that small of a crowd because it's a Cracker Jack box, McEwen Pavilion. But I think they've been dealing with disappointment year in, year out. And this is nothing new to St. Mary's to be in this predicament where they're sitting on Selection Sunday, feeling they had done enough, should be in, and they don't get in. And, Randy Bennett's been through this, but these guys, Emmett Narr, Joe Rahan, et cetera, down the line for the St. Mary's team, they hadn't dealt with it. And I think it took them a while to get over that disappointment. They finally responded, where BYU, I thought they came out in the first 2 games, and they just kept rolling and playing good basketball like they did at the end of the year because they want to prove that this is a good basketball team and they're playing for a championship.
Roxy Bernstein will be on live television tonight for
That's a scary
ESPN,
thought.
calling the game between BYU and Creighton. 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain. I'm guessing you will not be wearing any red.
No, I'm going purple tonight.
Purple.
Purple.
Neutral.
Neutral, exactly.
A solid neutral choice.
Although somebody will probably send me a message on Twitter, you mix red and blue and you get purple. So,
I'll send that
Do
to
you like
Thank you.
Weber State, Roxy?
yeah, Joel Ballenboy can play a little bit, huh?
Absolutely. And you did call the Big Sky
I
Championship.
did. Congrats to Randy Ray and his. Unfortunately, Weber State Wildcats lost in the NCAA tournament, but great for them to get back. And they're a fun team to watch. Randy does a great job.
I'm just glad we still have a men's basketball team playing basketball in the state of Utah at this point. Right?
Oh, come on.
I'm
don't have time
You're going there? Really?
I'm
Time
just
for that
saying, I'm glad that BYU is still playing basketball.
Is anybody in the CIT? Southern Utah? Oh, that's right. They weren't good. Sorry.
What's that?
Roxy?
Utah State, what?
Always fun,
Vegas
man.
8?
Thanks for the time.
You got it, guys.